Hey everyone, I'm Spencer.
I'm Lara, and we're married with board games. Good two-player only cooperative games are hard to come by. Most co-ops are designed for larger groups, but can be played with 2 players.
But being married with board games, we're always on the lookout for games that play really well off of our relationship and are good exercises in teamwork.
When we heard about the Ravens of Three Sahashri, we wondered if this would fit our criteria. In this 2-player co-op, each player takes on an asymmetrical role, with the goal being to help Ren repair her memory.
After several plays, we have an opinion. But first, let's head over to the table and we'll show you how to play. These are the contents of the Ravens of Three Sahashri. So you've got that, and then you've got this rule book here. I'll go over what the game comes with, and then I'll get into a little bit how to play. First of all, you have 2 different characters. You've got Ren and Feth, but they're working together to complete one objective. Basically, Feth is trying to find the right memories for Ren to relive. And Feth is going to place memories on the table, and Ren is going to choose the right memory to help repair her heart. Now in this game, the players cannot discuss really what's happening in the game in any way, since Ren is unconscious. So really the only way for her to give any clues to Feth about what she needs is by the cards that she takes from the table. So really these are the cards that just signify what role you're playing. Nothing special about those except for the awesome artwork. Next you have the deck of heart cards. You see that some of the cards have shaded portions, like up here. These represent memories of Ren, that and the shaded parts are the parts of the memories that she's forgetting. So these memories need to be repaired through the help of Feth. But you can see they all have a number on them. They're a different color. They also have a special ability at the bottom. Whenever you collect them for use, you can use a one-time special ability. And there is ways to get those back once you use the ability. But you get an idea of what they look like, how different they are as far as the shaded portions. And I'll show you how those play into the game in here in a minute. So you have those heart cards, then you have the 5 different colored ravens, which ravens are really bad in this game. They're going to be one of the ways that you lose. If all 5 ravens are ever on the table at one time, you lose the game. Ravens will also steal some of these memories, and if you don't save them through the use of some of those special abilities on the heart cards, ravens will eat them and they will not be available for you to use the rest of the game. There are also these 3 envelopes here, and what they have are additional rules. Once you beat the game on its regular difficulty, you will open an envelope and it will increase the difficulty of the game as if it even needed that. So there is some replayability there as far as making it even more difficult for you if you can complete it at its most basic difficulty. I'm going to start with the player of Ren because she essentially is how you win the game. She sets the tone, she sets the goal for the game. The game is played over the course of 3 rounds, if you will, or chapters, whatever, but in each one the goal is to complete her poem, the poem of her heart. These 4 cards here are her heart cards. Now normally when you deal these are flipped over so that Feth cannot see what they are. So these are hidden from him. Feth does not know the color or the number that are on these cards. Ren is trying to complete a Dodoitsu poem. So it's a type of Japanese poem, which the rhythm of that type of poem is 7-7-7-5. And so what she's trying to do is get cards. Each row represents a line of the poem. This total needs to add up to 7 going this way, this needs to go to 7, 7, and this total needs to be 5. She can't ever go over that, and she has to complete 1 row at a time. So before she can even start working on this row, she needs to put other cards totaling up to 7 on this row. For example, she might take a card that's a 2 and place it there. Again, Feth doesn't know what card she has in her heart, so if she happens to take a card that's a yellow, the heart card will be flipped over, and so Feth will now know what color she has for that heart card. That wouldn't work right there because you see that totals over 7. So maybe instead of taking the 2 that first turn, maybe she took the 4, and so now she would only be 1 away from completing that row of her poem and also showing Feth what color that first card is. Once a card is over here in the poem, the ability can then be used that's written there at the bottom of the card. And once all 4 rows are complete and these colors match what's on the table in what's called the Atman, then players finish that round and they'll begin another one. What's the Atman? Well, now I'll go over to Feth and show you how his role works. In order for Feth to get Ren the cards she needs to complete her poems, he will be adding cards to a central area on the table called the Atman. Ren will then be able to, on her turn, take one of the cards from here and add it to the current row that she's trying to complete of her poem. On Ren's turn, he will flip over as many cards as he wants to, stopping once he decides that's enough. But in this case, say he flips one over, he says, okay, I want another one. Okay, there's 2. Okay, and now what he has to do is he's got to take these cards and fit them into the Atman. They have to be placed to where finished picture covers finished picture and shaded area covers shaded area. So this right here is a legal move. I could also do something like this. That would be legal as well. But then the blue card would be covered up and Ren would not be able to take the blue card for her poem. You have to always add a shaded area. Optional is the colored area. So I could do something like this. That's legal, but I cannot do something like this. You have to always cover up a shaded area in order for it to be a legal move. Cards always have to be in this orientation unless specified otherwise by a special ability on the card. But yeah, let's go back to that original example of this being correct. Those would be 2 cards for her to select from on her next turn. Well, let's say that I wanted more options and I had kept drawing. Uh-oh, there's a raven. The raven immediately goes down to the raven row. If you ever get 5 ravens down here, the game is over and you lose. Now once a raven's out here, you can't ever make it go away. You can make it ineffective so where it cannot steal memories for that round, but as far as them going away completely off of the raven row, it's there for the rest of the game. So you have to be careful about how many cards you deal out so that you don't get your ravens out here too soon. Let's get a few more cards out here. Let's say that you don't want to place this green card, or you can't. Right now I can legally place it, but let's just say I couldn't and I had to discard it at the end of my turn. Every card that you don't put out from here into the Atman is discarded at the end of the turn. So if I were to discard this, because there is a green raven, it steals that memory, and if I don't save it by the end of this round, the raven will eat it and I will not be able to use it in future rounds. The only way to win the game is if you complete the 4 rows of the poem 3 rounds in a row, but there are several ways to lose the game. If you've used up all the cards in the draw deck and you can't draw anymore at the start of Feth's turn, you lose. If all 5 ravens are in the raven row, you lose. If Feth can't place a card in the Atman because of the way that it's set out with the shading and the colored areas, if he can't place a card in there, you lose. If the Atman ever runs out of cards by Ren taking them, if there's ever no cards out there, you lose. During the final dream, the 3rd and final round, Ren has to complete a poem row every turn during her turn. So if you can't do that, you lose. So there are a lot of ways to lose the game and only one way to win. It's a game of balance and solving the puzzle of how to best place the cards that Ren needs and her choosing the right cards to communicate to Feth what she needs. There's a lot more intricacies about how things work. There's some additional goals as far as something like reliving a memory wherein you try to get cards that total up to 7 of the same color out here in the Atman. That would take up a little bit more time for me to explain, but I just wanted to give you a basic overview of how to play the game so that we can give you some context for our thoughts.
All right, so you've gotten a look at everything that goes in this little box.
So cards.
Cards. That's it.
There we go.
Nice little box. So compact. We're not having to deal with any packaged air.
Yes, which I like. I believe that, I firmly believe that no box should come with excess packaging.
Right. Really, I mean, yeah, just be more economical, please.
So it's very portable because of that. And you can stick it in your pocket, purse, whatever. Hey, we got some time. Let's play Ravens.
Well, and I think that the fact that it is just cards, you're not going to be dealing with dice or little chits or anything that are going to be out on the table, so you aren't going to lose anything. if you're like at a restaurant waiting or something, you're not going to be rolling dice and then roll off into the floor or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that also makes it very convenient.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Tell me what you think about this art.
I think it's lovely.
So
and I'm not
lovely.
even a fan of anime or manga, and I still think this is really nice.
I agree.
It very well represents the story that's being told in this.
Well, what's
game.
really neat is, so the shaded memories on the cards is what I really like. So these cards represent Ren's memories, but that she's forgotten. They're missing. They're going away. And that's represented by the shaded parts on the card. And it's really nice the way that artwork and the design of those cards really represents the theme. And I really appreciate that.
Yes,
That's really cool.
definitely.
And transitioning into the theme,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on
Wow,
this theme?
what a unique story to be told in this game, and definitely something I'm not familiar with, because again, not that much into anime or manga, and it is definitely a story from anime or manga, and but it was so cool and very well translated into this game.
Yes. Well, yeah.
So well translated.
The way it's played, but also I feel like the rule book in this edition does a really good job of telling the story too, before you get into the rules, and explaining, giving you a purpose for everything that you do in the game, which again, I really like in games when you have a reason behind a mechanism that you're doing.
Yes. So
It helps teach the game.
Yeah, like reliving a memory.
Yeah.
In order to chase away a raven, or trying to get Ren to reveal some of her heart, in order to help Feth with knowing what cards to get out there.
So it's unique, and it also feels a little romantic too.
No.
It's so sweet. He's trying to help her relive or find her missing memories and wake up
complete
and
her heart's poem.
Yeah, it's so sweet.
So romantic. Definitely.
Yeah, so all that's nice. But when you get to the game
The
itself,
actual game itself, my goodness. I mean, how long have we been working on this game?
and we've been putting it off because for some reason there was a disconnect in learning it. We played it several months ago, and we played it. It's like something's missing here,
And we really just needed some distance for a little bit from it in order to be able to come back and put some fresh eyes on it.
Yeah.
And
so, and I'll tell you, it was me that was trying to learn the game. I watched a couple different how to play videos. I watched I read two different rule books. And I don't know, it might just be a thing for me, but just it took so long for it to click. But it did. It did click. And once it did, it all made sense.
yes.
And, it all makes sense, and we don't have to refer to the rule book, really.
Yes, at this point, I mean,
You don't
we
even
know
need-
what we need to be doing. The thing is, trying to get those things accomplished is very difficult in this game.
Well, it's hard, and before we move on to the hard, though, I will say it clicks so much that we don't even feel like we need any kind of like a player aid that has a turn structure.
Right, and I mean, is there even one supplied?
On the back of the rule book, it has order of events that you need to do, but we don't need it because it all makes sense.
Well, and that part is pretty simple.
Yeah.
As far as what you do, what each character does, Ren and Feth, what they do on their turn. It's
Yeah.
pretty simple.
Yeah, okay, but back to your point of
It's hard.
it's hard. It's so hard.
And it's all because of the Ravens.
the Ravens of Three
Those
Sahashri.
Ravens are super mean.
So there are a lot of ways to lose the game.
Yeah.
And there's only one way to win. But it's funny, the only way we've lost, even though there are several ways to lose, we lose every time by having too many ravens out on the raven row. We cannot find the right balance of drawing
Just the right amount of cards in order to help Ren complete her poem. But also, once some ravens start coming out, Feth wants... Both of us as Feth, we're trying to also help relive a memory to chase off a raven, but sometimes in order to do that, you have to draw more cards, and then oops, here comes another raven.
There it is. and it's different every time we play because the ravens are just shuffled in there. It's not like something like Pandemic where they're kind of spaced out a little evenly. They're just shuffled in there, so you theoretically could get like back-to-back ravens.
I feel like we have.
At least one time.
Yeah.
So it can be brutal at times. And again, we haven't won.
Right.
We've played it so many times
But
and
this
haven't won.
is just the kind of difficult that I feel like I want to keep trying this.
No, and that's a very good point. It's like, oh, we lost, but let's try again. And that's the sign of
Or let's switch roles and try again.
Yeah, and that's a great sign that, like you said, you make just enough progress to, we're almost there. Nope.
It's just the right kind of challenging.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mm-hmm. Because
I want a game that's a pushover.
Yeah.
Right?
No pushover games here.
I don't want no scrub.
Okay. But what I do enjoy is just the whole puzzle feel of this game. So you got that balance of trying to fight the right amount of time, the timing issue where you're trying to get cards but finish
deciding how many cards to draw.
Right.
Felt like there for a while a good rule of thumb was just 2 cards at a time. But then I was going, oh man, I need to have you relive some memories.
Or I got to get these lines of the poem finished quicker.
Yes, and so let me pull out some more cards. Oh man, here comes a Raven.
Yeah, so that's cool. But then also the physical aspect of fitting the different memory cards into the Atman, or Atman, however you want to pronounce it. It's like Batman without the M, or B. Atman. That's how we say it here in Texas. Atman. But that's really cool, is trying to fit those together. And it's really neat to try to, how can I best place these cards in here to better serve my partner? Which is really cool. Speaking of partners.
Well, and especially because Ren isn't really supposed to communicate that much since she's asleep.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the 2 different roles?
I think I love how asymmetrical they are because I was blown away. I started out as Ren and you played as Feth at first, and both of them definitely have their challenges. And so I was very curious to get a turn at Feth to see what all goes into that, but I felt like it kind of helped inform me that I had played Ren before, and I think it was probably the converse with you as well, to play Ren after having played Feth, figuring out the best way to try to do it, and which of course we're still working on. We're still trying to figure that out because we haven't figured it out yet.
But I think it's neat that both roles are fun, both roles are necessary, and for me,
There's not one that's like cooler than the other or more powerful than the other.
Right. If you said, hey, I'd like to play Feth this time, cool, I'll be Ren. Or the converse is true. I'd be happy playing either one. And I think that's a sign of a well-designed game that either one, I feel like my talents might be better served as Feth. Just because of, I can't ever remember what cards I have laid out as.
He does not remember his
I have to look
cards,
at those every single turn.
And you have to look at them at least twice each turn.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I like both, and that's really cool.
It is very neat. And so basically, bottom line from us is that the Ravens of Three Sahashri is a challenging 2-player game that provides an interesting puzzle to solve together. We were a little slow to catch on to Ravens, but we're glad that we eventually did. There's a really neat puzzle here to figure out. From the placing of the cards in the Atman, to deciding how many to draw, to trying to pick the right cards to give clues to your teammate, there's a lot to explore here in this game.
It's also neat how both roles are fulfilling. Having played both sides, they are equally important to winning the game.
For a great exercise in teamwork, we give the Ravens of Three Sahashri a rating of 7.5 and a seal of approval. If you're a couple who games, this is one you'll probably want to have in your collection.
We're going to box this one up for now. Be sure to keep up with us on our social media channels to see what we're playing next.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.